Okay, g'day, welcome to the Australian Transect Part 2. This is the second video for the assessment task that you're going to be doing. In this one here, we're going to look at the cross-section, the scale and the vertical exaggeration. Alright, this is my cross-section transect. It's pretty hard to get a photo of it because it's such a long piece of paper, but hopefully you can sort of see I've plotted the cross-section here, I've filled in the table, I've plotted it here, I've put the scale here, and I've done my vertical exaggeration. So in this tutorial we're going to go through all of those steps. Here's a closer view of my cross-section. The cross-section is a side profile of the transect, so it's starting here at point A, and hopefully you can see along here all of these little markers are my 15 points that I've chosen. We'll go into that in a bit more detail. Here's my scale, we'll talk about that in a second. And my vertical exaggeration is probably the most complicated of the three skills that we're going to look at today, and I'll go into a lot more detail about that as well. Let's start with scale. With all of these skills today, because we're dealing with a line that goes for upwards of over 2,800 kilometres, the numbers that you end up with are quite large and can sometimes just be a bit big to really sort of comprehend. So it's really important that you do it carefully. You'll see later on in this that even when I was doing it, I've made a mistake and I've left it in there on purpose so that you can see that even someone like myself can make a mistake. So you should be at a point like this where you've got your 15 points, you've got the latitude, the longitude, the elevation, which is really important, and also the distance from the start. In order to really map out your cross-section, really important that your distance from the start is accurate. You can see that the total distance for my one, is 3,077 kilometres long. Now, the other important piece of information that you need to know is that the transect, once you've sticky taped the whole 4 pages together, the transect cross-section part is 85 centimetres long, or nearabouts. You need to work out in terms of scale what 1 centimetre equals. So the way to get that is you need to divide whatever your distance is of your cross-section by 85 centimetres to work out how much 1 centimetre is equal to. So in my particular transect, I have 3,077 kilometres divided by 85. So that means that for me, on my cross-section, 1 centimetre equals 36.2 kilometres. That's not the way we're going to notate, though, notate the scale, because in order for a scale to be accurate, it must be in the same units of measurement. So we never really give a scale as 1 centimetre equals something in kilometres. So you can see here my working, the transect being, as I said, 3,077. So the map being 85 centimetres means that it's 36.2, and then 1 centimetre equals 3,620,000 centimetres. But really we end up giving the notation as a ratio, so 1 to 3,620,000. And as I said at the start, they're large numbers, but that's because we're dealing with a line that goes across the whole continent. Yours won't be exactly the same as that, but if you follow the steps, work out your distance of line, know that the cross-section is 85 centimetres, work out what 1 centimetre equals, and then you'll find your ratioed scale. Really important that you know what 1 centimetre equals in kilometres, because that's what you're going to need to do to plot this next section here to get the cross-section. Once you've done that, you've worked out how many kilometres per 1 centimetre, you can then start to plot the points. If you go back to the slide before, what I've done is I've worked out how many kilometres from the distance, and the first one is 197, you divide that by your 36.2, and that will give you how many centimetres it is. In that case, it was 5.4. So you can see on my ruler here, 5.4 centimetres from the start is 0.1. And I've gone up here in hundreds, just because that's a scale that fits for my cross section. If you're doing a cross section that goes through a really mountainous region, though, you may have to go up in a higher unit. But for me, mine worked at hundreds. So the way mine went along, my second point was 320 kilometres from the start. I divided that by 36.2, and that equaled 8.8 centimetres, which was there. And then I went up and found that was 320 metres, so I just plotted that there. Once you've finally plotted all your points along your cross section, you then just neatly hand draw them together. Don't use a ruler; you just neatly hand draw it, so you get a final product. Okay, the last skill that we'll talk about is vertical exaggeration. This is a pretty tough skill. It's a skill that comes up in the HSC. And a lot of students do struggle with this skill. And in this example, because the numbers are so large, it is easy to make mistakes. In fact, I have made a mistake, and I've put my work in here so you can see how easy it is to make a mistake. Always, when you're dealing with scales and vertical exaggeration, you've got to make sure that your units are your measurements are in the same unit. And that was the mistake I made when I first did it. Basically, vertical exaggeration is telling you how much the vertical scale is exaggerated to the horizontal scale. Now, if you think for the one that we're doing, this one, the horizontal scale measures 1 centimetre equals 36 kilometres along the bottom. If we did the same along the side, up on the vertical, and 1 centimetre equaled 36.2 kilometres up this way, our cross-section would be right down the bottom, and it would be dead flat. There'd be no way to really sort of get any definition out of it, and so it'd really be quite an unhelpful cross-section. So what we do, we change the vertical scale and make it something that's a bit more usable. In my example, as if you think back, the horizontal scale stayed the same. So the horizontal scale was still our 1 to 36.2, but my vertical scale, I was in hundreds. Now, it wasn't quite 1 centimetre equals 100, just because of what we've printed out. In fact, what it was 5 centimetres equals 700, and 1 centimetre equaling 140. What you do to get your vertical exaggeration is you put your vertical scale to get your vertical exaggeration, you put your vertical scale on top of your horizontal scale, and that will then tell you how much your vertical scale is exaggerated by. So in the example that I've got, I'll rub it out again so I'll do the working for us. I have 1 centimetre on the vertical scale equaling 140 metres. And on the horizontal scale, I've got 1 centimetre equaling 3,620,000 centimetres. That's where I've made my first mistake. I hadn't converted to metres. So in metres, I'm at 36200 metres. When you divide the two, and if you just divide that by 140 and then divide that by 140, then you end up with a vertical exaggeration of 258.6. So it's telling me that the vertical scale has been exaggerated 558.6 times. Okay, hopefully it's been helpful and you're able to sort of get along with that assessment task now. I'll put up another video dealing with the last sections as well. Alright, bye.